Okay, so the European Union is allowing people to eat bugs now, which has sparked quite a big debate on the internet. A lot of people go about it, and while other people seem to be accusing anyone that's against it of bigotry. It's like, oh, you just want to judge other cultures, don't you? Oh, you want to judge other cultures? Oh, I'll show you, you little bigot. I like judging other cultures. Like, in fact, it's normal to judge other cultures because here in the European Union, if you want to work in the food industry, you have a big tome of regulations that you need to follow. So when I look at other countries that don't have a big tome of regulations to follow, then I need to judge them. Because if I don't judge them, it means I disagree with the regulations. So I should argue against the EU. Like, for example, if you look at China, China doesn't have a big tome of regulations. So when you look at the wet markets, it's a health hazard because, again, you can get sick. There is no sterile environment where those animals are kept in or where they are being sacrificed. There is no way of checking to see if an animal is actually sick or not so that the person who eats it doesn't get infected with some weird disease. So yes, you should be able to judge it. Because if you don't judge it, then it means you must disagree with the way the European Union does things. So you need to criticize the EU. You like this idea of cultural relativist bullshit is just that. It's ridiculous. So no, like I do agree that when it comes to food and when it comes to health, there should be some regulations. And I can even criticize the Americans if you want. The Americans are using last line of antibiotics on pigs, the type of antibiotics that ruin your liver, but doctors use them as a last resort. So if you have some bug which is resistant to most antibiotics, eventually they're going to give you like the strongest stuff they have because they're going to judge, well, what is more important, your life or your liver, you know? So Americans are giving these strong antibiotics to pigs because they don't care about the pig's liver, it's going to die anyway. It creates bacteria that's actually resistant even to the last line of antibiotics that we have. So you can actually have like these super bugs that you go to a hospital and there's absolutely nothing that the doctor can give you in order to cure you. So, you know, like you can make all sorts of criticisms on other cultures, and I'm willing to welcome criticisms towards the European Union culture. If they're legit, they're legit. But anyway, right, let's talk about the approval for bugs. Now, first off, I thought, why should the European Union ban the sale of bug meat? Like, if someone wants to buy them, like I don't, but let's assume someone wants to buy them and someone wants to sell them, and there is no health hazard whatsoever. Like, the bugs are grown in a sterile environment, there is no health warning, the health issue. Why should the government prevent that transaction? Under, you know, what moral grounds? But then the more I think about it, the more I understand that yes, it could actually be a little bit problematic because you see, when you think about eating bugs, you think about like taking the cockroach or whatever and just crunching it into your mouth, which I'm pretty sure there might be some restaurants where white bourgeoisie twats are going to go there and put pictures of it on Instagram, you know, like some 3-star Michelin restaurant in France for rich people. Like, I'm sure that's going to be a thing, but what I'm worried about is that it might actually create an industry where the bugs are turned into paste or where the bugs are turned into, you know, this weird goo that companies like McDonald's or other, you know, meat processing companies might mix them up with actual meat in order to have a cheaper product. Like, yeah, no, that is something that would legitimately worry me. And I hope if they do that, they put a big freaking label on the thing. You know, like they just say, no, this contains bug meat or whatever, the amount of percentage, so that, you know, people like myself who don't want to touch this, because I'm very bigoted against bugs. I do not like bugs. I have a phobia, you know. Am I going to get fired if I have a phobia against bugs? Like, if you have arachnophobia, is it going to be against YouTube's TOS anytime soon? Because I don't know. But I don't want spiders. I don't want them near me. I don't want anything to do with them. And I don't want them in my food. So, you know, like, no, seriously, I'm extremely bigoted about this. Like, no amount of explanation and rationalizing is going to convince me to consume meat that is made out of bugs. Why? Because I don't want to. End of conversation. They can't make me. Nah, 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 nah. And if everything becomes like this, if every single, you know, food that you buy is going to contain insects, well, then I'm just going to use my money to buy a garage where I'm going to raise chickens and I'm going to eat my chicken so that I know that is that. No, seriously, I'm really that crazy. I do not want bugs in my food. I know, very, very problematic position to have in 2020, especially with the Green New Deal that explains to you that you need to eat bugs in order to save the planet. Okay, you eat them. You save the planet. I don't want to save the planet. Okay? So no, I'm really big at it. Other people that want to eat it, that's fine. Like if you want to eat it, that's okay, as long as you're not my girlfriend, because I'm not going to kiss you after you have dead insects in your mouth. Like that's, right? But if you're not my girlfriend, then you can eat as much as you want. I'm not even going to judge you. Do you see how kind I am? Like, do you see the compassionate in my soul? Like, you can sit next to me and eat bugs, and I will not judge you. It's like, okay, it's fine. You do you. Just do not give any in my face, because then we're going to have the situation where I end up throwing hands. But no, right? So that is a legit problem. Like especially now that an economic crisis is coming, you might actually see very cheap meat products that are made out of bug paste or bug pasta or whatever, and being sold to poor people. Like poor people are going to have to eat them. So like this actually sparks a very interesting debate. Like if there is a famine that approaches, let's assume, like for the sake of conversation, let's assume that there is a famine that is coming in the future, and people are being offered, this bug paste that's very cheap, and the poor people can afford it. Is that inhumane? Is that a problem? Like what if there is nothing? What if there is nothing? Because that's another question that should be asked. So like that's my assessment. As long as it has like a big label, then I'm fine, because I'm pretty sure there's always going to be the demand for meat that doesn't contain insects. But then again, I've literally no idea how bug meat tastes like, and I honestly don't even want to know. But there might be a company that starts turning it into paste and starts adding a couple of additives here and there, and realizes like how the amino acids need to be arranged in order for it to have a very addictive taste. And you might then start seeing that on the market. Like you might then start seeing that being produced at an industrial scale. And this is not something that I'm just coming out with. No, this is what Christopher Derian is saying, which is the Secretary General of International Platform of Insects for Food. Yes, there actually exists something like this. Who claims that he is looking forward to the sales of bugs, not just to find in supermarkets in the form of mealworms and grubs, but he also wants them to be incorporated into existing food products, which is probably going to lower the price of that particular product. And this is where he lost me. Every time someone that's rich and wealthy talks about protecting the planet, I smell methane, because they just gave a brain fart and it smells of shit. No, the reason they want to do this is because it's a very cheap alternative to other meat-based products. Raising bugs is a lot cheaper than raising pigs or raising chickens. They multiply quite fast. You don't need a lot of space in order to do it, and if you hire some cheap immigrant labor, then it's even cheaper. So no, it's really all about profits. It's really about making money. You're going to be able to create vast amounts of this bug paste that other companies can purchase in order to incorporate into their own foods. That's literally it. It's probably going to be $1 billion industry if it takes off. If people have no alternative, like if every single company realizes that, yeah, it's actually cheaper for us to do this, and they're going to have like some food products that are incredibly cheap, a lot of poor people will have absolutely no alternative but to buy them. And this is what they're backing on. Now, whether this is going to become a reality or not, whether people are actually going to start buying them or not, I don't know. I personally don't think so. Because first off, you have the icky factor. A lot of people are going to be like, yeah, I'm not eating bugs. Which is why they already have the propaganda and the rhetoric. It's like, save the planet, eat the bugs, you bigot, and make me a lot of money. And secondly, it's like, if it was actually this good, you would see other countries doing it. Like you would see India and China and other nations already starting this process up if it was legitimately that great. But no, I definitely think it's going to be a novelty factor. It's going to be like something where you go to a exquisite restaurant in order to eat a couple of bugs. And there might be a couple of companies that might try in order to do this. But literally, it's the yucky factor. Ugh. And it can become something like, I guess, vegan food, something that you can find here and there in a couple of restaurants serving it, and maybe a couple of companies doing it. But overwhelmingly, I think you're going to have a very difficult time, I don't know, convincing the Muslim population to eat bugs. I mean, can you even have halal bugs? Can you even have halal bug meat? Like, what do we do with that situation where you have a culture that is like, yeah, if the planet has to die, that's one thing, but I'm not eating haram. Like literally, how are you going to have the conversation with people that think like that? Because if that's what it takes to in the future to eat real meat, from animals, then I guess I'm going to have to convert. Inshallah, everyone. I'll see you at the next video.